Hello and welcome to the Beyond Podcast. This week we have a double feature because Last Jedi is coming out this weekend. I was unavailable last week, and so we're grouping Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars story, into one podcast. I am the Ghost of Sparta, Mediocrity 4.
And I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me. I am Robert. I'm pretty sure I've done that one before.
I'm pretty sure we all have. It's a good line.
It's a good line. It's a good line. Anyway,
dude is not here. We don't actually know exactly what's going on. So my headcanon right now is that he is on fire in California.
There we go.
So until I am proven otherwise, that's my headcanon.
Okay. Sorry, trying to readjust things here.
So I think we should start by talking about the Disney acquisition, because that's kind of the theme of this podcast, is that it's post-Disney Star Wars.
Yeah.
A lot of things happened with the Disney acquisition. When I first found out that Disney bought out Lucasfilm for, I think it was like $4.8 billion, I was like, cool. Disney was kind of untouchable at that point.
Yeah. They were doing good work with Marvel at the time, so...
And Star Wars seemed to fit right in with everything they were doing. Like, I'm pretty sure in like the 80s or 90s they even had a Star Wars ride, like a temporary thing. I think it was in the 90s to help promote, like the special editions and stuff. They like Fox signed a thing with Disney.
Yeah, Star Tours. Yeah, I went on that.
Yeah, I just remember it was part of I had like these Disney musical VHS tapes when I was a kid, and one of them was like about Disneyland, and it had like a walking right down the middle of Main Street, USA. Had like a zippity doo. I had this like creepy villain number. It was just all musical numbers, like no story or anything. There's a couple of them. Like there's one that was hosted by like Scrooge McDuck. I wish I remembered like what they were called or what I'm even talking about. Because it's just this vague memory I have of my childhood. So Disney bought out Lucasfilm in 2013. Wasn't it 2013? Because they got started really fast on a bunch of stuff, because Star Wars had been kind of dormant. Like we had Clone Wars going on at that time. Or no, I think Clone Wars was going into season 6, which ended up getting canceled by Cartoon Network and then put on Netflix by Fox Animation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the timeline of it. Other than that, like there hadn't been a whole lot of big video games, other than like The Force Unleashed, I guess.
Yeah.
Like The Force Unleashed 1 came out in 2008, and Force Unleashed 2 came out in like 2011. The Old Republic came out, I think, in 2013. Came out like the same year as the Disney acquisition.
Okay.
And that's kind of why EA ended up getting the video game rights, is because they already had like the Old Republic stuff.
Yeah.
They already owned BioWare. And that's kind of the only reason why why Disney gave EA the video game rights, which has not panned out. Disney is not happy with all the legal shenanigans of Battlefront Deuce. Wow, I did not know. When I first started calling it Star Wars Battlefront Deuce, I did not realize how fitting that name was.
So many layers.
All I did was like differentiate between that and Battlefront 2 from 2005. That's all I was doing, I swear. But they did not waste any time putting together a team of people to make Star Wars Episode 7. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they did was get the best way I've heard this guy described is by Movie Bob. He called him the remarkably unremarkable J.J. Abrams. He comes from TV background. He did Lost.
Yep.
And French.
Which I thought was kind of fitting, actually, because I don't know. I watched Lost and stuff like that, and during one of his one of the weirder, I don't know, they got into weird like time travel stuff, and at one point, one of his characters started rewriting Star Wars, and I was just thinking the other day, oh hey, that's kind of fitting. J.J. Abrams wrote a character who tried to rewrite Episode 5, and now he gets to write Episode 7. That's interesting. I also remember a bunch of people were all like, "What? You can have J.J. Abrams writing this? He already wrote Star Trek." Which, but
yeah, that's the thing. Like J.J. Abrams' only real talent as a filmmaker is his uncanny ability to mimic Steven Spielberg and George Lucas.
In a way, yeah.
And other major directors.
Yeah.
Robert Zemeckis is another one that comes to mind. Although the one I think he is most like is actually Chris Columbus, who got big in the 90s, not in the 80s. I could totally see J.J. Abrams directing Harry Potter, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, I could totally see that being something J.J. Abrams would make, like that level of quality.
Yeah.
That kind of like 7 out of 10 quality.
Yeah.
Which is also what I would give a Star Trek movie. His first one, and the second one was kind of garbage.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, and in a way, this might have been what the series needed, because The Force Awakens was both a sequel, but also kind of like a soft reboot and stuff like that, like an effort to kind of repair the damage left by the prequels and stuff like that. And in a way, like J.J. Abrams felt very much like, a fan of this series, someone who genuinely loved this series and, did what he could to, and basically stepped in and did what he could to revamp it, and to, varying degrees of success, I would say. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think first of all, I think The Force Awakens is his best film by a long mile.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Faults and all, that's not saying much, though. This isn't Chris Nolan, this isn't Quentin Tarantino. We're talking about J.J. Abrams here.
Mm-hmm.
He's not that good of a director. He's a decent technician, I guess. But as far as his actual storytelling ability, he's pretty clever, but he's nowhere near as clever as he thinks he is. And
as
especially
someone who saw Lost and stuff like that, I can attest to that.
Yeah, well, I never watched Lost, but I watched all 5 seasons of Fringe, and Fringe kind of fell apart after season 3. Like, it just completely
Lost.
fell apart.
Same thing with Lost. It kind of fell apart. There wasn't a clear path or plan, and it kind of fell apart.
Like
so
seasons 1 and 2 of Fringe are like just those 2 seasons by themselves. It'd be like one of my all-time favorite shows. Add season 3 in there, it's still good, not as good though. Add in seasons 4 and 5, and it's just like, did you guys forget that this was supposed to be like a supernatural cop show?
Yeah, with
Lost,
what's
all this like Revolutionary War stuff?
Yeah, with Lost, it was when he started going to like time travel and stuff like that, that things started getting just chaotic and ridiculous.
Yeah, but what was wrong with like the freaking
too much lore? Yeah, it's like you already had a smoke monster and stuff like that, and even what he ultimately did at the end of, I don't know, with the smoke monster stuff like that, like it worked. And it's like, you have a mysterious island that nobody can get away from. You didn't have to throw time travel into it. You really didn't. But, yeah.
Yeah, but it's all for the sake of that mystery box. That mystery box he went on TED Talks and talked about at length. He kind of played out his entire hand, his only tricks. Especially since I'm not sure how accurate this statement is, but apparently J.J. Abrams wrote a lot of The Force Awakens without actually planning what the reveals would be.
Yeah. That's kind of what it's... Yeah, that's kind of what I've heard from a few people that, like...
Yeah, I think Rian Johnson... I think Rian Johnson said it.
Who Rey's parents were, or how they're going to play in, or who Snoke is, or what's going to happen there, or why Luke has been gone all this time. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, to the identity of this film, whether you like it or not, this is what the film is. It is a meta-narrative of trying to stand on its own while also recognizing the fact that it is following up this massive legacy, one of the most important film legacies of all time, probably the most important film legacy of all time. Star Wars, like, The only one I
Yeah.
can think of that might be bigger would be like Wizard of Oz. And Wizard of Oz never had an actual canonical sequel to the MGM film. It was just all, oh, this is also based on the same books.
Yeah.
But it's its own thing, like Return to Oz, which is also Disney. 80s Disney, creepy, edgy, kind of disturbing, but awesome Disney. I miss 80s Disney. I wasn't even live back then, but I miss it. But and I think it works here just because of how well they work it into the meta narrative.
Yeah.
Which is why it doesn't bother me that it takes a lot of plot points directly from Star Wars: A New Hope, particularly A New Hope.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it felt kind of like an homage to Episode 4 and A New Hope, and in a way that I can see how that kind of worked. In a way, it was kind of a way of, because the prequels felt kind of like they deviated in a lot of places from the original Star Wars, and this kind of felt like Abrams' way of kind of letting us know, this is still the Star Wars you know and love and stuff like that, and that familiarity I think was, and like he wanted it to feel familiar, like it was kind of Star Wars going back to its roots with a little more I don't know, with a bit of a more modern feel and stuff like that, but still with a lot of those great practical effects that were all that important. Like BB-8 was practical effects, and that was awesome. So
yeah, a lot of this film was practical. A lot of this film was shot on physical film, which doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that was a stroke of genius, and it was a stroke of genius brought out by the fact that J.J. Abrams is just a fanboy, really.
Yeah, really
he's really just chasing after Steven Spielberg's shadow in a lot of his movies. And this isn't even the worst offender as far as that goes. Have you ever seen Super 8?
Yeah.
Which was the film he did in between his Star Trek movies. I loved Super 8 personally. I think it's his second best film to date. Third would be his first Star Trek movie. He's only made like 5 movies. I just realized he's only made 5 movies?
Yeah, he only just got
done a lot of
out
TV. He's done a lot of TV stuff. He's done a lot of producing stuff. Like Cloverfield, he produced, which I wasn't crazy about that movie either.
Yeah.
But Super 8, it didn't work in Super 8 because it's supposed to be its own original story. Whereas this one, it is part of the illustrious Star Wars legacy. And so I think it works a lot better here that so many of the characters are literally chasing after the legacy of the older cast. Rey is trying to discover her own past with their parentage. Like Finn and Poe, they treat Leia and Han as these legendary icons. And then Kylo Ren, even more so with his worship of Darth Vader.
Yeah, worships.
And the New Order in general,
which always seemed weird to me that he worships Darth Vader even though wants to follow in his footsteps, even though Darth Vader turned to the light in the end. It's I don't know, maybe that was left out of the historical record or something like that. They didn't want to go into that complexity, but who knows?
Maybe.
but
I don't know. Hopefully, it's something that The Last Jedi explores. Because that's an interesting, because you bring up
what Darth Vader's ultimate legacy was.
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point, and I do believe that in The Last Jedi we are getting flashbacks with Luke and Kylo Ren.
I think I've heard that, yeah.
And I know there's going to be flashbacks because even before they started shooting, they announced the cast list, and the cast list includes characters who died in this movie.
Yeah, Harrison
Ford and Max von Sydow, who dies at the beginning. He's the guy that I knew what you were before you were Kylo Ren.
Yeah. Yep.
That guy, he's apparently going to be in The Last Jedi in flashbacks.
Gotcha.
So we got this.
Did we ever find out who he was supposed to be? Was that supposed to be Bail Organa?
No. He was a new character. He has a name. Let me look that up real quick.
Sorry, I should have looked this up, or I should probably know this, but
I have the cast list for Rogue One pulled up for later because I don't remember hardly any of their names. But yeah, hold on. while I'm doing this, George Lucas, when he was making the original Star Wars, he wanted a cool blend of old actors and old like iconic actors and new fresh faces. And that was something that the casting department, and I think Kathleen Kennedy had a lot more to do with that than J.J. Abrams himself. Kathleen Kennedy being the Kevin Feige of Star Wars right now. Even though she's nowhere near as cool as Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige's a madman. Kevin Feige's like, just because of what he's been able to accomplish and how much he's been able to do with Marvel, with like this highly studio heavy focus and all these mandates and stuff, while also giving his really creative directors a lot of creative control that they want. And it's Kevin Feige's a madman. Really well. Kevin Feige's a madman. Like no other producer working today could have pulled something like that off. And so we got all the like old cast. We got Mark Hamill for a couple seconds. Mark Hamill was kind of pissed about that.
He was pissed about that one. Yeah.
Okay. Max von Sydow's name is Lorsan Tekka.
Lorsan Tekka. Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll learn more about that in Last Jedi. And what his role actually is. And so. And then
I'm guessing some sort of fugitive from Alderaan.
But, and we got all the old cast. Chewie's back, R2 and 3PO are back, Han and Leia are back in pretty large role. At least Han Solo has a pretty large role in this. And then you got the new cast, namely Daisy Ridley as Rey, John Boyega as Finn, and Oscar Isaacs as Poe Dameron.
Yeah. And like the biggest name of those few is like Oscar Isaacs, I'm pretty sure.
John Boyega's Academy Award nominated actor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was Martin Luther King Jr. in that movie Selma.
Oh,
yeah, he was also in Attack the Block, which was a really freaking cool movie.
Forgot about that one.
It was like
Okay, never mind, I was wrong.
Yeah, Oscar Isaacs probably is still bigger. I just remember seeing a lot more of John Boyega leading up to Star Wars.
Okay.
But again, like Attack the Block was such a good movie. It was like imagine if you have a movie like War of the Worlds or Signs or something like that, but it happens in a really, really bad neighborhood. And it's all just a bunch of street kids, like just a bunch of all bad street kids in England.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so good. So I'm gonna go back to my Google Doc.
Yeah.
So you got that, and it kind of presents this theme. Like that's kind of an intro to this theme of blending in old and new, because so much of this movie is using old techniques, but it's still kind of pushing the boundaries of CGI a little bit, I think.
Yeah, a little bit.
Nowhere near as much as like Phantom Menace or the original Star Wars did, but a lot more than say the Marvel movies are, or the DC extended universes. I think the only film franchise that's really pushing CGI right now is the Planet of the Apes movies going on.
Yeah.
Like other than that, it's been kind of stagnant for the last 10 years, or at least since Avatar. Yeah, I think Avatar was the last or most recent really groundbreaking CGI film we've had.
Think so, yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with just production costs. Like right now, Hollywood is in a spot where it's way more affordable to kind of keep CGI where it is right now. They got that perfect balance of like it still looks good and it's also affordable. Gotta have both.
Yep.
Because if it doesn't look good, people are gonna make fun of it like they did with Doomsday and Batman v Superman. And if it's not affordable, the movie's not gonna make its money back. Like Batman v Superman.
Yep.
I'm just
Or
kidding.
like
Batman v
pretty
Superman
much every
made its money
DC
back. Yeah, they made its money back. Justice League didn't, but Justice League looked really cheap too, so maybe it did.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this is a good time to bring up the hottest topic on this movie. Is Rey a Mary Sue? Apparently in The Last Jedi they blow that wide open.
Yeah, well, yeah, like we've already seen in the trailers that they're establishing that she's very powerful with the Force, and it's implied that even Luke is very apprehensive of just how powerful she is, and like I'm guessing and it seems like it's implied that the only other person as powerful as her is Kylo Ren. But so
I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. I don't know if that's accurate.
I don't know.
I think both parts of the trailer were both referencing Rey.
Oh, okay.
But if they were equally powerful, Kylo Ren
have that line. Yeah, but they have that line from Luke where he says, "I've seen that kind of power before. It didn't scare me then. I'm not making that mistake again," or something along those lines. Probably just butchered that.
Again, like he could have still been referencing Rey, like in the past, like maybe he's the one who dumped her on Jakku, but we won't know because
who knows
until we won't know for another day or two. As we record this, we are less than 48 hours away from me seeing The Last Jedi. I have my tickets. When are you seeing it?
I'm going to be seeing it on Saturday. So.
Okay, so you're going to be seeing it in 3 days. So yeah, Rey being Mary Sue a little bit, a little bit maybe.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, if she since The Last Jedi is emphasizing the fact that she's extremely powerful, a little bit, but there were a few things that I feel like she struggles more than people kind of give her credit and stuff like that. Like we see, like when she's flying the Millennium Falcon out of Jakku and stuff like that, she's bouncing around a lot. You know, she's barely getting through by the skin of her teeth there. And as far as being good with machines, I mean, she spends a bunch of her time scavenging in like Star Destroyers and stuff like that. So she knows ships, so then that way it makes sense. And she has combat experience with pole arms, although that staff is not the same thing as a lightsaber, so I don't know how much of an excuse that is.
Well, I mean, when she does get a hold of a lightsaber, she kind of swings it wildly. She basically just overpowers Kylo Ren at the end. Yeah. So her actual power, I'm fine with, because the power they're obviously doing something plot related with her, with the amount of power she has.
It's like she's powerful.
The reason why I say she's sort of a Mary Sue is that, especially in the third act, they kind of set up this thing where she needs to be rescued, and then she doesn't end up needing to be rescued because she rescues herself. Yeah. It's the fact that there's never a situation where someone has to bail her out.
Yeah.
And that kind of gets a little boring. It's a little, because this is supposed to be, like, one of the themes of Star Wars is supposed to be, like, friendship, kind of. But like,
and
go to New Hope, Rey is very much like Luke Skywalker in A New Hope. It is a very good recreation of that same dynamic.
And that's always the excuse that people use with these two is that, Luke did the same thing.
The difference is Han
Luke
Solo
was saved by Han at the end. Nobody had to save, and at the end, Rey saved, was the one saving Finn. So I can see that. So I would say kind of, but
we'll put a feather in that. We will come back to that question next week with when we talk about The Last Jedi and give our thoughts on that. But right now, like, I don't see Rey as a Mary Sue. She has Mary Sue tendencies, though.
Yeah, she could be if they're not careful, but I don't know. And I like Overly Sarcastic Productions did their video on a Mary Sue and stuff like that. And they did a really good job talking about how, like, and even despite what we said, I think that they are right that a lot of she hasn't done anything quite I don't know. Compared to Luke, no, she's she's no more of a Mary Sue than Luke was, so
and a little bit more. But again, it goes back to the fact that there's never a situation where she has to get help She's too capable is the thing. She's too capable in every situation she's put in. Like, if she were to just like overpower everyone with the Force throughout the entire movie, I would be way more on board with it. I would be way more on board with her, and I am completely on board with Rey, but I would be even more so if that were the case. And I love Daisy Ridley's performance. It's maybe a little wooden here and there,
a little flat here and there, but
when she has to put on the emotions, she puts it on. She puts it on very convincingly.
When she emotes, she's really good at it.
Like when they come up to the planet Takodana, which is where they meet Lupita Nyong'o's CGI character, Maz Kanata.
Maz,
and she's like, I never knew there's this much grain, and she's just got like tears in her eyes, like, that is the reaction of someone who's been on a desert their entire life.
Who's been their entire life on a desert.
I kind of wish Luke would have had that same reaction to Yavin now.
Yeah. And one thing I will also say is that the dialogue and the writing of this movie is noticeably better than a lot of George Lucas's dialogue. Just saying it right there, like it's very like a lot of it's a lot more clever.
It flows
better. It's a little chunky places, but I don't know.
I think it fits with Star Wars. I mean, this is probably the most Star Wars movie out there. Like, it's more Star Warsy than the original Star Wars is the thing. Like, it leans way more on the original Star Wars than the original Star Wars did Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so nice. I want to kind of touch on Finn and Poe. I know Poe is not in this movie hardly at all, but
which is kind of a shame because, well, he's in it more than they originally planned. He was originally supposed to die, but they liked him so much that they kept him around, is what I heard. But I said Poe, right? Or
I think he did.
Yeah, but he's definitely kind of we don't see nearly as much of him. He was kind of marketed to be the new Han of this series, but we don't see nearly enough of him. Kind of, maybe. I don't know.
He's certainly got Oscar Isaac. Certainly has the star power. So long as he's not.
Yeah.
And
maybe that's just what everyone was expecting. But
so long as he's not being directed by Bryan Singer, he has the star power.
Yeah.
God, how do you go from so likable and charismatic in this to just so boring in X-Men Apocalypse? Just like what was it, 4 months later? Jesus.
It was.
That movie was garbage.
Yeah,
but Bryan Singer has no business directing another X-Men movie. We gave him a free pass with Days of Future Past, but it should have been Matthew Vaughn. It should have been Matthew Vaughn for Days of Future Past. It should have been Matthew Vaughn for Apocalypse.
Yeah,
he's way better, has way more energy, and cares about the characters way more. I want to talk about Finn. Finn's interesting. Finn interests me. I like the idea of someone who has been part of, for lack of a better, the Empire, effectively. Even it's called the New Order, but talk about that later.
Yep.
And on his first real mission, he kind of realizes what it is he's being asked to do, and has that crisis of consciousness, which I find kind of believable, but I wonder if they're gonna do. I don't think they're gonna do anything special with that. I think the big bait and switch with him was that no, he really is just a klutzy stormtrooper, and Rey's the real hero of the story.
No.
Like I remember.
Well, I think they meant for him to be portrayed as like he was very talented as a stormtrooper, but was never willing to could never really wrap his mind around the why of being a part of it, but that kind of fell apart. I don't know. That doesn't really get portrayed all that well. He gets completely bodied by one of his old buddies and stuff like that. So, yeah, but the idea is interesting. So, yeah. And I don't know. And we do have that kind of part of him that even though he defects and stuff like that, like, he's still he's not trying to be a hero or anything like that.
No, he's
he just
a coward. He's
trying
to run.
Yeah, he admits that he's just trying to run. He has to get away, and he's just trying.
He's a better version of Blake.
Yeah. yes, very much so. Like he's just trying to get away from the New Order, and he just doesn't want anything to do. Like he can't be like he doesn't know where he's running to. He just knows he can't stay there. And
he tries abandoning them so many times in this movie. Like,
so
why does everyone want to go back to Jakku?
Yeah. Why does everyone always want to go back to Jakku? Yeah. Yeah, that was really good. So, yeah.
So, next on the docket is kind of the politics. I think this was one of the 3 big criticisms of The Force Awakens. One of them was relying way too much on A New Hope's outline. 2 was Rey being maybe sort of kind of Mary Sue. And 3 was a lot of people kind of at least looking into this film and looking into those initial reactions and initial reviews, a lot of people were missing the political intrigue of the prequels.
Yeah.
And the main reason is that it's been 30 years since Return of the Jedi, so obviously a lot of things have happened. But it makes it look like this New Order and this Resistance and the New Republic kind of came out of nowhere and are 3 different factions. Like, where's the New Order getting all this funding? Why is the Resistance the Resistance? Aren't they part of the New Republic? Isn't the New Republic in charge, sort of, kind of? Like, the Empire is no more, really, so why is this still a conflict? And hopefully a lot of that gets answered later on, but...
Yeah, but for now, it's kind of that weird question of, like, how does this... Yeah. And I think at first people thought that it was still going to be like the rebellion and the Empire, like the war was still going, which I would have been fine with. But yeah, like this is a completely new conflict, but it feels like all the same faces just somehow came back. So
yeah, like General Leia of the Resistance.
Like they kind of just repackaged it a lot. So that's kind of. Yeah, that was kind of strange. And then you have the Republic that doesn't even stick around all that long, which is also kind of weird, but yeah.
I think it's just one scene of a little bit of political backstory for, like, maybe have Rey not really know how things went from Return of the Jedi to
because she's been on Jakku that whole time. It would make sense for her to be
she would have been born. She wouldn't have even been born for because Daisy Ridley is like our age, like early 20s.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to take place like 30 years after Return of the Jedi, and so like you got Kylo Ren who's like pushing 30. He would have been born like right after Return of the Jedi, and Daisy Ridley's like a solid 10 years younger than him. So he would have been born like 10 years after Return of the Jedi. So how does it even get from like Return of the Jedi to however it was when she was growing up? Like, I think just one scene of a little bit of history there, would have went a long way. I don't know how it would have done with the pacing or editing of this film. Again, like it runs at a very nice pace. It's very well edited. It is very much recapturing that same technical quality of A New Hope. That same quality of editing that gave A New Hope the Academy Award for best editing in 1977.
Very much deserved. Yeah.
Yes. Well, again, like I was actually watching Rogue One today, and I was explaining to someone that I mean, New Hope broke a lot of ground in terms of editing. Like so many, like all the screen wipes that people kind of make fun of George Lucas for now, and that anyone can plug into a computer now. They had to do all that by hand. They had to really figure out like how the scenes are going to transition and how to use those kind of screen wipes to pull you into, to literally pull you into the next scene. But yeah, so you got the same story structure. You got a lot of the same beats as A New Hope, with a little bit of Empire Strikes Back as well. A little bit of Empire Strikes Back, especially with Kylo Ren, Han Solo, discussing
Yeah.
parental issues atop a precarious walkway that hangs over a bottomless pit.
Yep. Yeah.
You're not an only child, Kylo. You're a solo child. Oh, the memes. The memes that have sprung from that scene.
Oh, man.
Han Solo telling dad joke memes. Speaking of Han, and a lot of the I'm gonna say this as well. A lot of the contrivances in this film are very Star Wars-esque. It's very much, oh, it's the Force.
Yeah.
And Han Solo like, that's not how the Force works. Like, kinda is.
Kinda is. It kind of is. Yeah. Yeah, definitely you get the BB-8.
The Force is just descriptive enough to be interesting, but just vague enough to where you can use it as all-purpose plot hole filler.
Yeah, Poe just happened to be meeting with a guy on the planet as this extremely powerful new Force user around just as Finn was starting his first mission and realizing that this wasn't his job. Yeah.
And the Millennium Falcon just so happens to be there.
Yeah.
And Han Solo just so happens to be in the same area and tracks it and finds it. And then you got this whole non sequitur scene with these CGI slug monsters or whatever they're supposed to be.
Yeah,
that Han's been capturing. That scene kind of came out of nowhere.
That for some reason that has been gobbling everyone else down in seconds, but decides to hold on to.
I feel like that was this movie's equivalent to the garbage squid from A New Hope.
Yeah,
it's just this non sequitur moment that comes out of nowhere and no one ever talks about again.
Yeah. I did like that line from Rey though, where the blast door's over. Get out of here. Wrong blast doors.
Wrong blast doors. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, yeah, that's her kind of that's her messing up, but then she gets them right back out of it.
Yeah. And it works and it works even though it's a total blunder. Like it completely works.
Yeah.
And I did like that line from Finn where I don't know, the thing's dragging him and then the door closes on its tentacles and he's all like, yeah, the door just randomly closed. Oh, fancy that. She keeps running.
But
you know what happened.
So I'm gonna. You brought this up earlier while we were preparing for this podcast. The real problem that people have with these last two Star Wars movies, the lack of creativity.
Yeah.
Well, I see that a little bit. So because the thing is, Star Wars, even when it was bad, with Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, it was pushing boundaries and blending genres and finding creative ways to mix and mesh story elements together into a cohesive whole. Whereas this and Rogue One as well tend to be running on a bit more of a cheat sheet. I totally see that.
Playing it safe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is kind of just playing it safe, which is something Disney does a lot. They go back and forth. Like I miss 80s Disney because 80s Disney was all ballsy because law of diminishing returns, late 70s, early 80s Disney was failing, and so they had to really be ballsy in order to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And then
nowadays they're very
and then they started.
And it's
they go back and forth, and
Disney,
Walt Disney himself was a stunningly clever capitalist. Disney knows how trends work in movies, which is why, kind of a prediction for Marvel here. After this whole Thanos thing gets resolved, I feel like we're not going to have 2-3 Marvel movies every year anymore. I think they're really going to start pulling it back, and we'll still get one every year, every other year, just to kind of keep the interest going a little bit, but they're not going to start pushing them, because the casual audience, the audience that doesn't actually really care about superheroes, the audience that just wants to see the good movies and is still they're still enjoying superhero movies at this point, and those kind of trends go in like spans of 10 years, like 80s fantasy, 90s with animation, 2000s with the dark edginess. In this decade, it's superhero movies, fun superhero movies that make all the money. And you know, we're coming up on 10 years since Iron Man, and so the trend is going to start dying, but it'll come back just like these kinds of trends do a lot of times. And I think Disney is smart enough to realize that and keep the interest just enough, like make the movies cheap, make it to where this hardcore superhero audience, and they're going to do the same thing with Star Wars. This hardcore audience is going to be enough to make their money back. And then when interest starts brewing again, when they start making more and more money, then they're going to put more money into it, and we're going to see a resurgence in these genres. And I think Disney is the corporation to do that. I think they're smart enough to do that. They've been around long enough to do that. They've seen it and lived it with their animated movies over the last 70 years now.
Yep.
Right? No, oh no, it's been like 80 years. It's been 80 years since Snow White.
Wow, yeah. Yeah.
Snow White turned 80 this year. God.
Sheesh. Yeah.
Grandpa wasn't even alive back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how long they've been in this game. That's how
they've had a long time to figure out how to
ride these trends.
Yep. Which is why people can hate on it as much as possible, but
they
know what they're doing.
Razor Fist has said that like Star Wars isn't bad yet. But if it keeps going this year by year thing, where Star Wars movies coming out every year, it's gonna lose kind of that specialness of Star Wars, where you had to wait 3 years for a Star Wars movie. It was like this. Every Star Wars movie was like this major, once every couple year event. Whereas now it's like, it's this year Star Wars.
It was something
movie.
That like each generation got, but
and the creative juices are just gonna end up running dry eventually.
That's kind.
Hasn't happened yet, and I doubt it happens with The Last Jedi. I have like very little faith with the Han Solo movie coming out next year, though. That movie has problems.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
But speaking of problems, I like it when I can do a segue like this.
There we go.
The super-duper Death Star. Another note that they had from A New Hope, but they're like, let's make it more bigger. Let's make it kill 5 planets at once, and let's have it like eat a sun and be the size of a planet.
Yeah, it was built into the planet, right, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Which again, I have no idea how they have the resources. Maybe it'll be revealed in Last Jedi that like Snoke is. I don't know. Maybe he could like just make stuff out of thin air, and they're able to just use him to completely break the economy.
Yeah,
it's like going on It's like playing Minecraft and just saying screw it. I'm going on creative mode. That's Snoke's power.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think, I mean, they even call it out themselves. You know, it's another Death Star and stuff like that. But it's
at least they're aware.
The concept of the Star Killer base like isn't new. I've heard about it. Like it's been a thing since, or in the like it was a thing in the expanded universe, which they've pretty much said, you know, they pick and choose which themes of that they want to use and stuff like that. But like the idea of the Star Killer, this base that can destroy multiple systems and stuff like that, is not new.
Well, and you bring up an excellent point with their use of the expanded universe.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clever. Like it's one of those things where, I don't know. I think it was one of those things where they basically told us, you know, we're not going to like. We're wiping the slate clean, but we will use some things that we like, which I think is pretty smart because, I mean, we talked about this. The expanded universe was so all over the place and stuff like that, and it was so so diverse and stuff like that, and the prequels were kind of a slave to it. So, and that was one of their downfalls. So,
that was one
in
of
a
the
way,
problems
this
with
is
the
smart.
writing. And not only
so
that, but
so that's a smart thing with this. But yeah.
Not only that, but it allows them, as you said, to pick and choose the elements of the expanded universe that worked. Like Thrawn worked. That's why he's in. That's why he's in Rebels. Darth Bane
why he's in Rebels.
Worked.
Yeah.
That's why he was in Clone Wars season 6. Jason Solo worked as a concept. That's why his concept.
Him Ben.
That's why his concept, not necessarily his character, got retrofitted into Kylo Ren.
Yeah,
and
that's true. Not entirely his character, but Ben Solo. Like that was one thing that I was actually pretty happy about, because that was one thing bummed about, was that we weren't going to get I don't know. I would have liked to have seen Jaina too, but I was kind of bummed that it's like we didn't get that idea of, Luke and Leia having a kid who turned to the dark side and became a Sith and stuff like that. I'm glad that they utilized that.
Luke had a kid too, but he's a completely different story.
Han and Leia, yes. Han
and Leia.
Highpower's not even here! What's wrong with me? Anyway.
Highpower's not even in this podcast series yet.
Yeah. but Han and Leia having a son who turns to interesting concept that I'm glad they used.
Yeah, and not only that, but just looking at it from an adaptation level. The expanded universe is mostly books and comics. It does not work the same way as film. And so it allows them to do new and creative things while using those elements without it being like, oh, just read the book. And it also it frees them up, and they will be like, no, the books aren't canon, but we'll pick and choose elements from the books that are, because I mean, and I think they had to do that. It might have been just them playing it safe, but I can totally see the business reason why Kathleen Kennedy made this call is that they wanted the old cast to be part of this new trilogy. They're still alive. They're not going to be able to do it forever. Carrie Fisher isn't going to be in episode 9.
Nope.
Like they did this just in time to get her for 2 films before she sadly passed away. And so it was just this opportunity to have this passing of the torch kind of thing. Apparently, the first script, which was written by the guy who did Toy Story, I believe, wrote Toy Story, had that as a major thing, like had a lot more emphasis on the older cast having their like one last hurrah, and then passing the torch to Rey, Finn, and Poe, and Rey, Finn, and Poe were like barely in that script. But then his idea for episode 8 had no Luke, Leia, or Han, and it was all Rey, Finn, and Poe. And Kathleen Kennedy was like, let's balance this out between the 2 casts a little bit more.
By having Han be the Obi-Wan of this movie.
Yeah.
I saw.
Kind of weird that he's the Obi-Wan. I guess Luke's the Yoda.
Yeah. It's kind of fit. I don't know. It's kind of a nice arc that his character took, you could say. But
I was going to make a joke about Luke or about Luke making Rey give him a piggyback ride. Then I remember that actually did happen behind the scenes. There is a picture out there where
of Mark Hamill on Daisy Ridley's show.
Like
whether or not that's Daisy, actual footage that'll be used in the movie.
It was Daisy Ridley was doing her physical training to bulk up for the movie, and Mark Hamill just happened to be passing by. I was like, jumped on her back, like, this is your training, young Padawan. Mark Hamill's a freaking treasure. And I feel like he has a lot of my same opinions.
It's brilliant.
I feel like Mark Hamill and I share the same opinion on Luke Skywalker, which is a point of nervousness about The Last Jedi is that Mark Hamill wasn't all that happy with what they were doing with Luke, and so I feel like I'm not going to be happy with what they're doing with Luke, because like me and Mark Hamill, we have a lot of the same ideas for what Luke represents within the mythology and within the themes of Star Wars, and just as a character, as he's my favorite character, and I'm a little nervous. I don't swear to God, I do not want to see Luke Skywalker get killed off.
Yeah.
He's going to, though, eventually. Like, if not in this episode, if not in episode 8, then in episode 9, he's gonna die, and I'm gonna cry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's like, he's this big icon and had this big impact on my life.
Yeah. Possibly more so than Han, because I'm pretty sure everyone knew Han was going to die in this movie. Like, I'm pretty...
Harrison Ford's been wanting to kill Han Solo off since the beginning.
Yeah, he'd been wanting it since he'd been wanting it since like episode 6. So like, and anyone that knew that was able to figure, okay, this is probably the end for his character. Yeah,
like Honest Trailer said in the Honest Trailer for Return of the Jedi, which they released this week. They're like, they froze Han in the last movie just in case Harrison Ford didn't show up to work.
Yeah, just in case he didn't show up for this one. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, really easy way to write him out right there.
But I am glad he came back for this last movie, because he was good.
I think he warmed up to Star Wars a lot more later in life.
Yeah. I felt like he enjoyed this one, so
because throughout the 80s and stuff, he made it really clear that he liked Indiana Jones way more than he liked Han Solo. Now Han Solo was kind of like, yeah, I love Star Wars and all, but Han Solo is not my favorite character. Like, I don't even think Han Solo would be on his top 5 favorite characters that he's played. They'd probably go like Indiana Jones, Jack Ryan, the president from Air Force One, the guy from The Fugitive, maybe Han Solo after that. Yeah, that's what I feel like, just listening to Harrison Ford interviews and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, they killed him off, which on one hand is kind of ballsy. On the other hand, it's like, if they're going to kill a character off, that's literally the safest character to kill off, because Harrison Ford's been pining for his death since the late 70s, early 80s. But I think the way they did it, though, left it was impactful. Like, it's one of those, oh boy, this scene. It was like, oh boy, this scene. Like, as soon as he walked on that ledge and yelled, Ben, you're like, oh no, he's gonna die.
Yeah, it was that moment where you just... Yeah.
It almost puts you in Kylo Ren's mindset. The way it shot instead of being like, oh, he's going to die. And you know he's going to die for 5 minutes. They drag it out, but...
And you know he knows he's probably...
It really puts you in Kylo Ren's mindset, where he's made up his mind that he's going to kill his father. He's going to commit patricide.
Yeah.
But he's still second guessing himself. There's still that little voice in his head being like, don't do it.
Yeah. I'm being torn apart. Yeah.
Yeah. You're tearing me apart, Solo.
You're tearing me apart, Dad! But yeah,
and then when it happens, and Chewie's reaction to it, he shoots. At first, like, the first time I saw it, like, did he just shoot Kylo Ren in the balls? That was also really... Nah, he shot him in the side.
And like the hip, yeah. And that's another reason why I can kind of believe Rey being able to best him and overpower him is because he was injured.
Yeah, we
even see it before he fights her, that he's like pounding at his side. We see blood dropping. It's all like he's hurt. So
he's fighting mad. He's fighting angry. He's not fighting smart at all. He's just swinging his lightsaber around wildly. Rey swinging her lightsaber around wildly, and from there she goes wild,
which is basically how Luke beat Darth Vader.
Yeah, from there it's no longer a contest of skill. Training doesn't. Once two people are fighting like that, training means nothing. It's about who is stronger with the Force, and Rey is way stronger with the Force.
But
that's why I buy that. Like, skill only gets you so far as a Jedi. Like a lot of the books explain that.
But that isn't. But I did also really like. When Chewie, like after Han Solo died and Chewie's roar, like I thought that was just the perfect moment. Like I don't know if it was voice acting or if it was like sounds, but Chewie really did sound just heartbroken at that point, and just no. So that was
there's a
really good.
comic out there on the internet of like Ben Solo growing up and Chewbacca being like his only friend, his only real friend, and then yeah, and then Chewie's like the one who tries comforting him when he tries leaving, and he leaves anyway, and then he has this like crisis of consciousness when Kylo Ren kills Han.
And he just has that heartbreak, and that's why he doesn't shoot him in the head.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Just like, I hate you, I have to do this, but dang it, I can't kill you. Bam. Yeah.
So that kind of sums up the plot aspects. Is there anything else we need to kind of talk about before we roll into Rogue One?
I was gonna also say, like, and I think this kind of goes back to what we talked about, that this felt like it played it safe, and with the Star Killer base, it really is just like the Death Star. And I think that's part of why I just remember so much there was so much really good suspense in episode 4 leading up to the destruction of the Death Star. There's none of that with this episode, like leading up to the destruction of the Star Killer. And I wasn't sure, but I feel like a part of it is just because a part of me is kind of like, okay, I've seen this before. In fact, I've kind of seen this twice in a way. Like, I've seen Return of the...
I think it's because we don't have enough time with Poe.
That too, yeah. We don't have enough time to really get invested in Poe and his struggles. Is probably also a part of it. But yeah, there's just a lot of it that ending just did not land the same way that Return of the Jedi or A New Hope did. So that was kind of a shame. But yeah, I think it's, I don't know.
Because that the Death Star trench run scene, as nonsensical as it is, was perfectly edited to build suspense. Yeah. And something they actually added in reshoots, and this is covered in how Star Wars was saved in the edit. The original cut of that film did not have the Death Star anywhere near Yavin 4, and so that kind of added suspense. And they do that with this movie too, where it's like it's getting ready to fire on the Resistance base.
But we don't see what's going on over the Resistance. Yeah, we don't see that urgent.
We don't get that timer.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we don't have as much. Yeah, and on top of that, we don't have as much reason to care.
Yeah.
Because again, like, we're not as invested in Poe. We're not as invested in the New Resistance. We don't even know what they're resisting, really. Yeah. Are they resisting the New Order? Yeah. What power does the New Order have? This goes back to the political thing.
What authority does the New Order have? Yeah.
Yeah, this goes back to the.
That's.
I think.
I guess. I don't know. Yeah, do we want to talk about like Adam Driver's performance, or
all the performances? I think are good. I can't think of a single bad performance.
I don't know. In a way, it felt like Ben. I think we were talking about this before this, but like Kylo Ren was, or Ben or Kylo Ren, whatever you want to call him, is kind of like he throws those giant temper tantrums and stuff like that, and it's like he's trying so hard to be Darth Vader, and in a way it almost feels like, you are him, you're him before he was Darth Vader, but it's like...
He was going for A New Hope, he was going for Empire Strikes Back Vader, ended up in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, kind of is what it felt like. I wonder how much intentional. But at the same time, it's good because it's human. Because it makes him feel human. And that's what I liked about, like, people... were so upset when he took off the mask and had like a fairly face. I was like, I liked that because it shows us that it establishes that kid. Yeah, and it lets us know that he's human and that there might actually be hope for him and stuff like that. I think I actually appreciated that.
I think it was definitely intentional because look up pictures of Adam Driver. He looks way scarier in real life. Like, he's got this kind of like chiseled face. He's usually got this like really Jafar-esque goatee. Like, he could totally pull off Jafar. If they ever make a live action Aladdin movie, they won't do this because they'll want to cast an ethnically correct Arab actor, probably, because it's Disney and that's what they do. But if they wanted to whitewash Jafar, Adam Driver's your man.
Yeah.
He looks the part, and he's usually got short hair. But in this, he's like all clean shaven. He's got like the mullet. He's got like Obi-Wan Kenobi's mullet from Attack of the Clones.
He looks very young.
Really dweeby.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I think that was
that's just another.
Yeah, I think that was intentional. I think it's I think he is just kind of this petulant guy who never really got a chance to grow up right because of whatever his parents were doing as he was growing up. And he got shipped off to Luke at whatever age.
Probably felt a little abandoned, which could be a parallel between him and Rey and stuff like that. Both of them feeling abandoned by their parents and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think they're gonna take it in a direction like that. Especially with the thing that was in the international trailer for Last Jedi, where Rey actually pulls out Kylo Ren's lightsaber. I wish I didn't watch the international trailer. It was the only thing that they added in the international trailer was like, I really wish I would have waited for the movie to see that. Like one of the coolest thing in this movie is something Kylo Ren does, and it's the catching the blaster bolt.
Yeah,
like it's like the actual turn and handout was in the trailer. Like, oh, that's a cool move. Is he like? Where's someone? Is he about to choke someone? Like, then you see it in the context of the movie. Like, oh no, it's even cooler than that. He's catching a blaster bolt, which we've never seen before. It's just like,
well, Darth Vader did it, but
like actually stopping the blaster bolt in midair. He blocked it.
But Darth Vader blocked it. But he actually
Darth Vader blocked it. Cool, I think Obi-Wan's even blocked it with his hands. I know he's done it in the cartoons. He's like blocking blaster bolts with his hands, just like maybe that's where Darth Vader picked it up. In fact, and the other villains, that's where he picked it up.
And the other villains were kind of
Hux and
Hux and Phasma. Phasma. I'm glad that they're doing more with Phasma because I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. And I was really excited when I heard that Gwendolyn Christie was going to be.
They made a big deal about like female Star Wars villain, and she's played by the chick from Game of Thrones, and then she gets like 1 minute of screen time. It's like, hey, I mean, she got more screen. She actually got more screen time in this than Boba Fett did in Empire Strikes Back.
And I'm glad they're gonna. And it looks like they're doing more with her in the future, so that's good. And I love the some of the promo pictures that they show of Gwendolyn Christie and Finn, the actor. I'm sorry,
John Boyega.
John Boyega, and the fact that like she just towers over him, and it's amazing.
Well, John Boyega is kind of short too. Like I think Daisy Ridley's taller than him. I think not. I think they do. Yeah, so they do that with both of them. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell in a movie because the movie does a lot of like camera tricks, like especially Tom Cruise movies, because Tom Cruise is like 5'7". Yeah. So they always do like these weird camera tricks to make him look taller, and they do that a lot in movies. So unless I see them like I'm trying to picture them like in interviews and stuff standing next to each other. I don't know who's taller. I know John Boyega's not exactly like 6 foot though. Yeah.
And then Hux is, I don't know. He's another character that I feel like we don't get a lot of time with to really appreciate. But I think he's supposed to kind of be and it feels like he's supposed to be like the new Tarkin, and in a way he kind of works in that aspect. Like he's there. I don't know. He doesn't have like that that rapport with Kylo Ren that Tarkin had with Darth Vader, but at the same time he does kind of have that willingness to call him out on his crap, and so
here's why General Hux works for me as kind of the Tarkin stand-in for this movie, because the New Order is supposed to be similar but different from the Empire. The Empire had the control, and there's always this confidence with all the Imperial officers, and the New Order doesn't have that luxury because they're not the ones in control. They are kind of like
they don't have the luxury of being able to lord their authority over people. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and so it kind of does turn a lot of the New Order officers into these screaming, petulant childs like Domhnall Gleeson is in this movie.
He really reminded me of, or I don't know. He he did kind of give off a bit of a Hitler vibe, which I wonder if that was intentional. But like,
kind of. I mean, the Empire.
That's a lot what Hitler was.
The Empire was
Yeah.
envisioned as space Nazis, and the New
Yeah,
Order,
so-
I guess, would be like
so
space
it works.
neo-Nazis.
So yeah, like what we got of Hux, I liked. I would just like a little, and yeah, I thought it worked. So yeah, okay. Sorry, that's just what I was wanting to talk about. Was kind of the villains because they
don't do a lot.
they don't get talked about as much, but they're good for what they do. So
I mean, like, none of the actors do a bad job in this. I think the one that bothers me the most is actually Andy Serkis as Snoke.
Gotcha.
I'm not even going to touch that question. I have it on the dock, but there's so many theories about who Snoke is.
Yeah.
I don't even want to.
It's Ezra Bridger. No.
I hope he's not anybody. I hope he's someone new. Although the theory I have, just having watched Rogue One, I think Snoke is the guy who told Vader that Krennic was there. Yeah, because they let the camera linger on him for quite a while.
They paid a lot of attention to that guy. Yeah, that is true. Like that guy was walking for a while, and like I remember watching it earlier. Or yeah, I watched Rogue One earlier today, and I remember watching that guy walking. I was like, did Krennic throw on a robe for some reason? I don't remember.
That's what I thought it was at first. Old times I watched, I was like, is that Krennic?
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah.
But that's a good segue into Rogue One, though.
Yeah. Verdict for Force Awakens, as far as scoring goes.
Sorry. It's good. Like it's not bad. But like we said, and this is and I feel like the same thing goes for Rogue One. But I don't know. I give it a 7 out of 10, even though I'm generally not good with ratings. But
yeah, I give it a 7.
But it's good. It feels like a worthy successor. It does a good job of setting things up for the future, and it doesn't feel lazy. It feels like it tries, but it also feels like it played it safe a little too much. So The Last Jedi really needs to bring something new to the table, and really needs to try and kind of like we talked about, try pushing the boundaries and being more about like the Star Wars what made Star Wars really good. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna took the words right out of my mouth. It's good. It's just shy from greatness, and what would have made it great is a little bit more creativity with how the various elements are mixed in.
Yeah.
So it shoots for A New Hope, ends up being like a little bit weaker version of Return of the Jedi instead. Yeah. So yeah, I give it a 7 out of 10, and I'm gonna roll into Rogue One now.
Yep.
All right. So Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, the first of these Disney-fied anthology series Star Wars spin-off movies, which I don't think it's a good idea. I never thought it was a good idea. And today, a couple hours before we started recording this, I watched it for just the second time. I watched it once in theaters when it came out, and so it had been about a year since I had seen it. And my opinion of it has not changed, like, at all upon second viewing. Mm-hmm. So the director of this was Gareth Edwards, who is an even more unremarkable director than J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
His only real claim to fame, I think, was the 2014 Godzilla movie, which also
was very mediocre.
Has a lot of the same problems. Lack of character. All the good stuff is in the last third. The plot just kind of happens all over the place and cuts between places without any real rhyme or reason. I guess that if Gareth Edwards' next movie has a lot of the same problems, I'm gonna call that his mark. I'm gonna say that's his signature, like all of Steven Spielberg's floodlights, like George Lucas's screen wipes, Steven Spielberg's floodlights, J.J. Abrams' lens flares, Gareth Edwards, all the good stuff happens in the third act.
Yeah.
So something I want to talk about is something that hasn't been talked about in a year. It really hasn't been talked about in the year since this movie actually released. was the reshoot controversy. Hashtag dump Star Wars. What do you know about what went on with that? I looked in.
I didn't pay too much attention to it. I didn't really care. I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really care all that much. Like, I figured it was, I don't know. Yeah.
So basically,
like, I know that reshoots happen and that a lot bode well for the way things are going to turn out, but
So what happened? So every Hollywood movie goes through reshoots. It happens. They save movies more times than not.
Episode 4 was reshot.
Yeah, they save it because it
not really reshot,
stuff.
Re-edited.
Yeah, it reworks stuff and puts more. The reshoots usually fill in the blanks or add exposition where it probably needed to in the original script, or they put more focus on things that didn't get enough focus. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, this isn't a good example, but Suicide Squad had a lot of extensive reshoots. A lot of it was because
they wanted to make it funnier.
Yeah, it did not test. It did not test well with the audience. It did not test well with the WB higher ups that they showed the original cut to, and so they're like, "Hey, throw in some jokes." And so they reshot it to throw in jokes. I think Suicide Squad is a pretty bad but enjoyable movie, and a lot of it was saved by the reshoots. It was saved more by the reshoots than the reshoots were not the problem. The problem was really the editing, the fact that they had 4 different teams editing the movie, and then the theatrical cut ended up being this hodgepodge of all 4 different edits. One of the edits was made by someone who had only edited music videos, and another edit was made by the trailer studio that had only edited trailers up to that point. So that was half of Suicide Squad was edited by those 2 teams. No wonder the movie felt like a music video trailer. But where the controversy comes in is that as these reshoots were happening, the 2016 election was happening, and the writers in particular said some unkind words about the person who ended up winning that election. Which caused this backlash, particularly from the right, with the hashtag dump Star Wars. Because the theory was that a lot of the reshoots were to add in scenes that would basically take pot shots at nationalism, which ended up not being the case. I think.
Yeah, no.
I think what ended up happening was that they took a lot of the moral ambiguity out of the movie. I think that's what got reshot. Because so much of the trailers showed this kind of like dark grittiness with the rebellion in particular. And a little bit of that is in the movie, particularly at the beginning.
Yeah.
But they don't end up really doing anything with it by the end.
Yeah, not really.
By the end, they are still the heroes that we all know from the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And there's an awesome line.
I get the feeling that all the bad ones just left and retreated after they found what was going to happen. Yeah. Or about the Death Star and stuff like that. Which kind of works. Like, it is kind of the idea that, if you're not willing...
If that was intentional,
stick with the cause... Yeah, if this was intentional, if they meant for it to be the message of if you're gonna, if you're just gonna bail on a cause when things start to go wrong, then it doesn't need you. But I'm not sure if it is intentional. But yeah,
like in the beginning of this movie, Cassium, played by let me pull up that cast list again. Diego Luna, I think is his name.
Maybe, I think.
The only Mexican in Star Wars, apparently. Because this has a ethnically diverse... This has the kind of cast you would expect from a 2016 movie. They're all minorities of some sort. Which, I'm fine with. So long as
his
it makes
accent
sense.
shows.
But yeah, his accent is pretty strong. Like, So where's Space Mexico in this universe? Like we already know they have
like
Space Britain.
Yeah, and it feels like he's trying to cover. And sometimes it felt like he was trying to cover it up. It was like just it's fine, it's fine. We'll suspend our disbelief. But yeah.
Well, and the pilot is Diego Luna plays Cassian Andor, aka Discount Kyle Katarn. And he shoots his comrade at the beginning of the movie, and it's like, oh yeah, he's someone who's like willing to kill his friends for the cause.
For the cause, yeah. But then he has a moment.
Yeah, the next time he has.
But then he has a moment of, but then he has a crisis of conscience shooting Galen Erso, someone he doesn't even know.
Yeah, and that really does show in this movie. And there's a line in the trailer, really, probably the best line in the trailer, which was "What will you?" And it's by Saw Gerrera, like, "What will you do if they find you? What will you do if they catch you? What will you become?" And it kind of implied that, like, in order to get this mission done, maybe the Rogue One crew does like war crime level stuff.
Yeah.
In order to get out of the situation,
has to go to some extremes and stuff like that.
But it never ends up amounting to anything, and that line isn't even in the final movie.
Yeah, it's
there's a lot of lines that aren't from the trailer that aren't in the final movie. Like I'm glad this didn't make the movie. The whole "this is a rebellion, isn't it? We rebel." I don't think that was.
I rebel. Movie. Yeah, no, it wasn't. Yeah. Although the rebellions are built on hope line was kept, which.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, and they repeat that a little too much for my.
I just saw. I just saw the cinema sins for that one, and they talked about that. They're like, they say hope way too many times in this movie. It's like we get it.
Can you tell that this is leading up to A New Hope?
Yeah, exactly. It's all like, we get it. This is the prequel to the.
It's not my biggest problem with the movie. In fact, it's something. It's the least.
It's one of those once you see it things, but it's not the worst thing.
It's the least Star Wars movie, but I don't think they go far enough away from Star Wars. Like, I think Phantom Menace is actually less of a Star Wars movie than this, and it was also more of a Star Wars movie than this because it actually stood on its own 2 feet a lot of times and had a lot of creativity and took a lot more risks, whereas this one is really safely nestled into this. We already know it's all going to work out because we know they're going to get the Death Star plans, and they never. Well, they do something risky by, spoiler alert, for a movie that's a year old now. They kill off the entire Rogue One crew. Yeah. But it's not really that risky because they don't.
Because we still know how it ends.
And they don't give them enough personality. They don't give us really a reason to care about them.
Yeah, they don't really make them people that we're going to miss, except for K.
Yeah, K2SO had the most effective death. I also like I like Chirrut, but I don't know why he was there half the time.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like he just had nowhere. Where like you get the feeling that he just had nowhere else to go and stuff like that. Yeah, but I don't know. This joke has been made a lot, but I think it is true that it's pretty telling when a droid is a more memorable character than any of like the human characters and stuff like that.
He is voiced by Alan
Tudyk. But he is voiced by Alan Tudyk, and that is Alan Tudyk is a joy and a pleasure, and one of the most underrated actors of all time.
I just remember him and Wreck-It Ralph. Like if Disney, if you ever make a movie about Ed Wynn, get Alan Tudyk to play him.
Yeah,
because he does such a good impersonation of Ed Wynn in Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, and and in this just the moment that he's first introduced, congratulations, you've been rescued. Do not resist.
He's got actual personality. But so much of the plot, especially in the first 2/3, just happens without any rhyme or reason. Like, why? What did Mads Mikkelsen's character, Galen Erso, get the plans to this pilot played by Riz Ahmed, I think is the actor's name. Yeah, Riz Ahmed. But Bodhi Rook is Rook.
Yeah, Bodhi.
Rook is his name.
Well, I was gonna say earlier, Finn did the defecting Imperial better, I think.
Yeah, well, we never get to see Rook as an Imperial pilot, and we never get to see with him and Galen together.
Yeah, we never got to see like when he made that decision to leave and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of shows up, and he just kind of shows up with the.
And like this was still a good performance, but yeah.
He's a decent actor.
He plays the nerd. The acting was good. He's good as like this, as kind of this nervous man who's not entirely sure.
The only actors I didn't like was Jiang Wen as Baze Malbus. He left absolutely no impact on me. He's the big gun guy that hangs out with Donnie Yen's character.
Yeah, I know,
and then Forrest Whitaker, the most
Saw Gerrera,
the most acclaimed actor in this movie. Oscar winner, I believe. I believe he won for Last King of Scotland 10 years ago. But he talks like this the entire movie.
Yeah.
Every single line is like this. And it's
like the whole Liam Neeson and Natalie Portman thing. Kind of phoning it in and stuff like that.
Natalie Portman phones it in a lot of times. And Liam Neeson, I thought, did decent enough in Phantom Menace. But, he's playing Saw Gerrera, who is a character from Rebels. I wish Dude was here because he's more up to date with Rebels.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar as I should be either.
It feels like they threw in this character just to throw a bone to the Rebels fans. They'd be like, hey, Rebels fans, we have a Rebels character in the upcoming Star Wars movie. Please love us.
Yeah. And we have a reference to Hera and Dooley in here at one point.
I don't know.
There's a point where somebody she's a character from Rebels. There's a point where somebody calls out, or where she's called on over the over like an intercom or something like that. Anyway, but Saw Gerrera is like, I'm not familiar enough, so it feels like he just kind of comes out of nowhere and stuff like that to be a part of
So the whole first third, like, it jumps around a lot. Like we get the scene with Krennic basically abducting Galen Erso.
Which I will say this, I liked Krennic. He was
kind of I like those a little bit. He's played by Ben Mendelsohn. I'm gonna look him up right now, see what else he's been in. Nothing I've seen. He was in Killing Them Softly. Nothing I've seen. I haven't seen anything else with him in it.
Yeah, I think.
But he did
wasn't
good kind of
playing
that.
The Dark Knight Rises?
I don't think
wasn't he I thought he was the guy that Bane has that line of, do you control?
Oh, Daggett? No, that wasn't him.
Daggett? No? Oh.
No.
Never mind.
No, Daggett's like a foot shorter and more whiny. Sounds like this. Someone get some girls.
Okay, gotcha. But like the way he's played, I like the way, kind of that contrast between when he's dealing with Galen Erso, like particularly when he's dealing with Galen Erso, and he's got this confidence and kind of this smugness about him that he's just like, your wife died.
Then when he's around Tarkin, he's got this inferiority complex.
Yeah, then when he's around, when he's around his superiors, and when things aren't going his way, he's got this massive inferiority complex, and he just unravels. I don't know. In a way, it almost feels like he has the biggest character arc in this movie. But like this desperation to
a lot of the first act, a lot of it's contrived. A lot of it stems from the rebels somehow being more well informed and more well spread out than the Empire, which this second, like the first viewing, I kind of bought it. The second viewing, I really did not buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you got all the stuff going on at the same time.
And they just happened to show up or they just happen to show up in this town right when Saw Gerrera's men are planning an ambush on the Empire and stuff like that.
Just which if there were a Jedi in this film, I would buy it. Which is why I like Chirrut. I like the concept of his character, mostly because I'm a big Daredevil fan. I would have bought a lot more if he was like a Jedi in hiding. Like he don't even give him a lightsaber. Like he broke or lost his lightsaber somewhere along the way. He's just been in hiding all this time. Like I would buy it a lot more if he had actual Force powers instead of just generic blind man magic power.
Yeah, and also the way that I don't know. I will say this one thing I kind of liked about the way he fought was the fact that it felt like he was targeting like the unprotected joints of the stormtrooper armor. Like,
well, and
that's
a lot of that was like, probably Donnie Yen doing his own choreography. Donnie Yen's a master of stuff like that.
Yeah, that was something that I appreciated, and it was kind of like that's what I that's what was missing from like the Ewoks in Episode 6. Is like that's why I believe him being able to beat them with a stick more than I believe the Ewoks being able to beat stormtroopers and stuff like that. But it's because it feels like he is actually, taking these precise moves, although him being
throughout the entire movie, this is where like I don't know why they're there half the time. Like I don't even understand why they go with Jin and Cassian to see Saw Gerrera.
Well, they're captured, but yeah.
I guess they were.
But it doesn't make sense why they would capture them.
Yeah, and they're just. It feels like they're both just along for the ride, just to be part of the crew for the entire movie. Like they don't have any actual reason to be there except
just
it's
occasional wisdom.
Baze is his like sidekick, I guess, but he leaves no impression. Like
he's Obi-Wan.
I just now realized his name is called Baze as we're doing this podcast. Like I had no idea what the character's name was before I actually just looked it up just now. And that really shows the biggest problem with this movie is the characters. We have no reason to care. Like walking out of leaving the theater from Force Awakens, I knew Rey, Finn, Poe, Hux, Kylo Ren, Snoke. I knew all their names and I knew all their actors. This one, I think the only one I knew is Jen and K2. The only reason why I knew Jen is because they say her name like 100,000 times.
Yeah.
I am Jen Erso, daughter of Galen Erso.
Yeah.
That Felicity Jones with that faux British accent nonsense. Didn't work for Carrie Fisher. It really doesn't work for Felicity Jones.
Yeah, no.
I'm actually gonna look her up. She's actually British. She does not. She sounds like fake British. Yeah.
And then we have Peter Cushing's
CGI ghost.
Yeah, the CGI ghost, which
I was completely fine with.
Yeah, like as CGI goes, it was good. Like there is that feeling of this is not entirely right, but like it worked. I feel like maybe
I think it works better than the Carrie Fisher ghost that they have at the end.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of
that's because I think the Carrie Fisher ghost is that was it, and also just I don't think that it was necessary. I feel like it was just like. I feel like they were playing a little too much on our nostalgia there and stuff like that when it's like, you didn't have to do that. So,
that's another major complaint about this film is that of it tries to stand on its own. It tries to carve out its own identity separate from Star Wars even, like being a war film, being shot like a war film. It doesn't have an opening title crawl like every other Star Wars movie does. It just begins. The music is not done by John Williams. It's different. It's a different guy, obviously doing like a bad John Williams impersonation. Actually, I take that back. Yeah. It was a John Williams impersonation, but it wasn't that bad. A lot of the
it wasn't terrible, but it's kind of like
very familiar. But he does leave beats out to make it. He avoids copyright. He makes it different enough to where John Williams can't sue him. Not that I don't think John
Yeah,
Williams
but
could sue him,
trying
I'm
to
pretty sure
follow
John
up.
Williams does not actually own the rights to those songs. I'm pretty sure it's still Lucasfilm who owns the rights to all the Star Wars songs.
Yeah, but still trying to follow up John Williams is you're not gonna succeed. Yeah,
Hard to do.
It's like it's still good. Like it's not bad. It's just not John Williams.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, you also got that.
But yeah, like CGI. But yeah, like I understand why we had Tarkin, and I understand why he was in there, and it worked, and I liked it. So yeah.
Yeah, the person they got to do the Peter Cushing impersonation for like voice work, and I'm pretty sure he did all the like mocap for it. Yeah. He was really good. In fact, I wonder. I'm gonna look this up right now. I wonder if it was the same guy from Revenge of the Sith. His name was Guy Henry.
But
yeah, I'm looking up Guy Henry right now.
Yeah. But yeah, all of Tarkin's scenes with Krennic
were... What's the next one? Because my phone's being slow.
I think the next one you had was... we talked about the major issue.
The Space Squid, which was another, like, just... Why even have that? It was completely pointless.
It was another... Like, them trying to call us back to... and, like, they said he was going to be insane, but he was insane for, like, just a little while after.
Yeah, and as soon as he says...
He wasn't even crazy. He was just kind of spaced out and stuff like that. It's like... Yeah.
Yeah, and as soon as he's like, I'm the pilot. Oh, I'm the pilot. He's completely fine for the rest of the movie. And so it's never mentioned again.
Yeah. And then you have the Guardian of the Wills, which are basically just guardians of the Force and stuff like that.
Good concept. I like the concept. And there's a theory going around that they might be doing more with them. It was the same guy from episode 3.
Nice.
I like that. See, that's good fan service. I had to look that up.
Yeah.
Because we talked about with Revenge of the Sith, we mentioned Tarkin earlier. It's like, and Christopher Lee gave him like lessons on how to walk and talk like Peter Cushing.
Yeah,
even though he had no lines.
Imitate Peter Cushing.
Even though he was only on screen for a few seconds, and it's still like, it really felt like Peter Cushing because he did a really good impression.
And his performance here felt a lot. Yeah, definitely felt a lot like the Tarkin that we remember and stuff like that. And so, yeah.
Yeah, when he said, "You may fire when ready," I have no idea because I haven't listened to like any commentary on this film. Yeah. It really feels like they actually took the audio clip from A New Hope of him saying, "You may fire when ready." Because if they didn't, this guy should get a lot more work as Peter Cushing because it was good enough to send chills down my spine. And I wasn't even on board with the movie at that point. But that was good. Like, I like that. That's probably why I completely don't care that the CGI kind of hits that uncanny valley because the actual performance...
The performance was still good,
The movements, the body language, the vocal performance is just... It's like Peter Cushing came back to life and is haunting the Star Wars franchise for some reason.
Yeah, even if he looks kind of weird, it's still a great performance, and it's still nice to have him back. So
another example, like movie kind of failing to stand on its own, being just way too occupied with A New Hope, is all the nonsensical cameos in this movie.
Yeah, like Bail Organa just randomly wanders in. It's like, why are you?
Aren't you supposed to be on Alderaan like in a day to die?
Yeah. Which was another funny thing that
I like Jimmy Smits. I think Jimmy Smits is a good actor who does not get nearly enough work.
Yeah.
So more Jimmy Smits, but he had like a radio transmission and it would have made more sense.
Yeah. And it was funny, I saw the
the person who plays Mon Mothma is the same person who played her in the deleted scenes of Revenge of the Sith that never made the theatrical cut, and I don't think is in any cut of the movie because I'm pretty sure that whole subplot just got completely dropped, and hasn't been in any kind of special editions for Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Not that Revenge of the Sith has a whole lot of variations.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But it was kind of funny when CinemaSins did a thing where so they have little stingers at the end of their videos and stuff like that.
yeah.
And they showed the scene where Bail Organa says, "I would trust her with my life." Cuts to the Death Star destroying Alderaan. I was like, so
Yes.
it was kind of clever, but
Yes, that
but yeah, it is. But yeah, it does feel like
the
he's
one
just.
that really,
But yeah, just a lot of cameos.
well, actually, the one that bugged me the most was 3PO and R2, but I'll get to that
yeah.
next. But another one that bothered me was the two randos from the cantina scene in A New Hope. They get a cameo in this.
Yeah.
And the way it's edited is like they bump in, like, oh hey, it's that guy, and then the camera like stays on them for like several seconds as if they're going to be important or something. And
yeah,
it's so nonsensical because how do they get out of that city and onto Tatooine
before
the
it blows
next
up?
episode?
Yeah,
for episode 4.
Yeah, they must have been like on their way to their ship or something.
And I think the second viewing answered my question. But there's a bit of incongruity with the Battle of Scarif and the beginning of A New Hope. Namely, it implies that the Tantive 4 was at the Battle of Scarif. That does not make any sense. For a couple of reasons. One, if that were true, why wouldn't in A New Hope Vader be like, "Hey, we literally saw you leaving the Battle of Scarif."
Yeah, I
was almost on this ship. You got away from me just in time, and now I'm back.
Yeah.
But the scene with the
that was something else I noticed.
CGI Leia, the person who hands her the disc is like, "We just received this transmission," and they're all like kind of like casual about it. And the fact that Princess Leia was there,
you all nearly died.
So it's like obviously that's a mistake in the editing, where the Tantive 4 was not actually meant to be there, and that was just a ship that looked like it. In fact, I looked a little closer at it. The one that leaves the Battle of Scarif is orange, has orange paint, whereas the Tantive 4 had red. So it's not the same ship. So that solves that issue. Second problem is 3PO and R2. They're on Yavin 4 as everyone is leaving for Scarif.
But they're supposed to be on the
Tantive 4. Heading to Tatooine.
Gotcha, yeah.
Or heading in that direction. Or heading from Alderaan to Tatooine, wherever they were at when they got the Death Star plans. So those are the big incongruities, and there's like smaller ones, like whatever. Like Darth Vader scene is awesome. It doesn't matter that chronologically his next fight is just
it's one of those things where it kind of bugs you if you think about it, but it's still a great scene.
Does not bother you if you watch these in release order like I do. It'll only bother you if you try watching them chronologically.
Nah, that's probably true. But yeah, and Darth Vader's this, and
the scale of this movie is also a lot smaller. Like we see this with the destruction of Jeddah City, where the Death Star only blows up the city, and I guess that's to keep the Death Star as a constant looming threat to the heroes, without making this plot hole of Alderaan being the first planet it destroys, which was always a big thing. Like this that was the message Tarkin wanted to send. Like he has another great line from Tarkin, and this is we want a demonstration, not a declaration, or I can't remember exactly what the line is.
We want a I think it was like we want a statement, not a manifesto.
Yeah, something like that. But it's like, it's like this is just a small test of make sure that the Death Star is not going to blow up when you try pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
And
he also has that line of
actually testing its full destructive capabilities.
Yeah. And I also like that line from him where he's all like, where Krennic is all like, it's a shame that Darth Vader and the Emperor couldn't be here, and he's all like, I wanted to protect you from any possible embarrassment. I was like,
CGI Ghost Peter Cushing is the best part of this movie.
he really is. He's very well done.
He's been dead for like 30 years, and he's still the best part of a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, he did really good.
Yeah, speaking of Vader, though, that first Vader scene... Cringe.
It was okay right up until that pun. Why? Nobody wanted
when does
it.
Vader make dad jokes?
Yeah, exactly. It's all like, yeah, nobody wanted punny Vader. Nobody asked for punny Vader.
Like I was watching this.
It was like,
you know,
like,
people are always like
coming, chuckle out of me, but it's like I shouldn't be chuckling at something Darth Vader says.
Like when I first saw it in the theater, I was just like, did they really just do that? That better not be the only Vader scene in this movie. Like if that's the one thing Vader does in this movie, that's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like so I do like his.
Make sure not to choke on your aspirations. Oh god.
It's like
that's,
really.
That's something Yang would say.
Yeah, I did. No, I did like that line.
I would say in Ruby Chibi.
Yeah. But I did like that one of
cookie.
Yeah. I did like that line though of its power to create problems has certainly been confirmed. Like that fits with what we see in the next movie and stuff like, or
also,
not in the next movie, but in episode 4 that like he doesn't think much of the Death Star and stuff like that. Like we again get that here where he's just like, you know, it's clearly, it's been right now it's been more trouble than it might be worth. So
yeah, also, the fanboy
get your shit together.
So the fanboy in me loves that they got James Earl Jones back to play Vader.
Mm-hmm.
The realist in me realizes that they should have done something else because James Earl Jones is obviously 40 years older than he was in A New Hope. Like he doesn't have it anymore. I don't think he has it anymore. Which is another reason why, like, just that line delivery, man. But luckily the rest of that scene is decent enough. Also, apparently that planet's supposed to be Mustafar. It's the one planet that doesn't have, like, the text over it. So I think they're assuming that, like, we knew what it was. Like, even Yavin 4 had the text crawl, I believe.
Yeah. And that's actually something else that kind of bugs me, or somebody pointed this out and in a video I saw, and it kind of bugs me actually. The idea that Darth Vader like can spend an extended period of time outside of his suit and stuff like that, that he's like, you know, just chilling, and I'm guessing like it was a Bacta tank or something like that when Krennic shows up and stuff like that. It kind of defeats I almost feel like it defeats the purpose of like his suit and what it was kind of.
We don't know like how long he can survive or what his like setup is, because we've seen him like put the stuff. We've like in Empire Strikes Back we saw the scene where he's like putting the helmet on, so we know he's not in it 24/7. We don't really know.
Like that he needs to change it out and stuff.
Yeah, we don't.
But I guess I don't know. But something that I liked about Episode 3 was that scene of like Anakin being turned into Darth Vader and stuff like that, and the like mask descending on him, and kind of the idea, you know, this suit is now his prison and stuff like that. Yeah. And I feel like this scene, like the idea that he you know, can spend hours and stuff like that chilling outside of it, kind of defeats that purpose almost.
I hope that's not really the case. We'll probably never know. It's probably
not.
Yeah, we'll probably never know.
But that's just something that I kind of wonder about. That is like,
yeah, they haven't given any like hints of that since Empire Strikes Back. So
yeah. So it's a little thing, but it's just something that I kind of feel like. But I don't know. But it's still good.
So yeah. Oh god. Yeah. There's a lot of planet jumping in this movie, and I think another complaint I have with this, and to a lesser extent Force Awakens, that the planets seem a little personalityless, a little bland, maybe.
Yeah, they feel a little more
like even the
a
ones
little
that
more
are,
spectacle
yeah,
than or a little more stylish. Yeah,
like it
like
really
they're just there to
showed with
look cool.
Jakku being basically Tatooine. Like there's no plot reason why it couldn't just be Tatooine. Um,
Yeah.
Except for the fact that they wanted to do something different than Tatooine, but they just did the same exact thing with Tatooine and just called it Jakku.
Yeah.
This planet suffers from it. It doesn't suffer from that aspect of the problem. It suffers from the aspect of the problem that there's so many planets in this movie, and not a single one of them make any kind of impact, except maybe Scarif at the end. And just because that's where
You
all the
can't
good stuff
really
happens.
keep track. Yeah. Yeah, you can't really keep track, and you don't really feel like keeping track. So yeah.
There's like I listed the ones that listed some of them. The ring of the ring of Kathleen, Wobani, yeah. There's whatever planet Galen Erso is on when they assassinate him.
It's like Edu or something like that.
Yeah, Edu. That's another thing. Like, so much of the first two acts could have been skipped. I think that's other than the character. I think they could be skipped a lot because of the characters being kind of bland, and uninteresting. But that ties into the second biggest problem, which is so much of the first two acts could have been skipped. Like they could have just had a plot where they could have completely cut out all the stuff with Jedha. They could have cut out all the stuff with Saw Gerrera and just had the pilot show up on Yavin 4, being like, "Hey, I got word that the Empire has a new super weapon. We need to figure out how to destroy it before it destroys us." And then maybe like build a little bit of drama there because you don't trust them or whatever, and then they go right to where the plans are. Like you could have had this movie take place on like 2, maybe 3 planets easily. Yeah. Instead, they spread it out over like 10 planets. It feels like, and none of them stick around.
Yeah.
The only one that leaves an impression is Scarif.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, Galen Erso decides to give or decides to give Bodhi like these plans not even the plans. He gives him a hologram telling them that there are plans to destroy it, but doesn't actually then says, "Oh, by the way, it's on this heavily fortified Imperial base." It's like, why didn't you just give Bodhi the plans? Or I don't know. But I guess the answer there is because then there would be no movie. But yeah. I will say this, I do like the idea though of the Death Star's fatal flaw, even though it's still even though the whole exhaust port thing is still bullshit. I'll get to, but I do like.
I think we covered that with the New. I think we covered that with the New Hope.
Yeah, we talked about that with the New Hope. That the whole
what an exhaust port is supposed to do.
Yeah, we just need to include a link to the directly video, and it'll tell you exactly why it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like the idea that it was an intentional, that it was put there intentionally.
An intentional design flaw.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. So yeah, a very intentional design flaw specifically meant
making Mads Mikkelsen the unsung hero of the rebellion.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was very busy in 2016, by the way. Doctor Strange
busy.
And this, but
he's always busy.
Yeah.
Mads Mikkelsen for a long time has been that guy from That Thing. He's one of those guys.
He works hard. He does a lot of good stuff, and he's a good actor. I like him.
He's never in a leading role though. I don't think he's ever once been in a leading role. Is the thing, which is why
it was Hannibal in a TV show, but
yeah.
That's the closest he's ever
good sporting actor. He does a decent job for the little bit of screen time he has in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also don't get.
Although the way he dies looked really uncomfortable, like the way his legs are bent, his leg is bent and stuff like that. I get it, he's dead, he doesn't care, but it's could they not have made him? Did they not feel like making him more comfortable?
Yeah, I think another thing is, and if this question had a better answer, at least Jen Erso would have been a more interesting character. Why is she here? Like there is an answer to that question in the movie, but it's not a good one. They need her because Saul trusts her. They need her to get close to Saul because they already know that he's got the pilot, I guess, even though again, like the rebels being way more in the know than the Empire bothers me. So they need her to get to Saw, and then she kind of takes it personally as like I'm redeeming my father's actions or whatever. But she never really gives a reason for that being her motivation. And it would be like, why wasn't she already a part of the rebellion? Like, it never gives a reason for that either. Like, she was apparently raised by Saul and taught how to fight from him, but we never get the reason why he. Yeah, we never really get the reason why she left or why she never joined the rest of the Rebel Alliance. It would have been better if they spent a bit of the movies and a bit of the second act, kind of showing Jen Erso the ropes, like, this is the rebellion, this is how we work, this is how we operate, these are who's in charge. And so she could have been like the audience surrogate character from there, but they don't do that either. There's just a lot of questions I have, and luckily the third act makes it worth it.
Yep.
Because the Battle of Scarif is spectacular.
It's really good.
No holds barred. Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna give my verdict a little early because it's all action, so it's kind of hard to just talk about. Watch the movie. Yeah, like, if you're gonna watch the movie, at least if you're gonna watch the movie, then watch the movie. If you're not gonna watch the movie, at least watch the last 40 minutes of it.
30-40 minutes, yeah.
Maybe even the last half, so that you get a bit of context. Because I'm telling you, like, the actual the entire reason why this movie exists, it's the story of how the original Death Star plans got stolen.
Yep.
That plot line does not actually start until the second half of the movie. The first half is like just trying to figure out what's going on with the super weapon and what even, like, they don't even, like, the Rebel Alliance doesn't even know about it until like the second half of the movie. They just know that, like, they're building a weapon. Yeah, it's not until
it's not already destroyed an entire city.
Well, it's not. But... Yeah, that's how they learn about it. The destruction of Jeddah happens a little less than halfway through the movie. Like, that's how long this first act is and how tedious it is.
Yeah.
Is that the first actual bit of action happens over a half hour into the movie.
Yeah.
But it's filled with so many cool moments, like the hammerhead slamming into the Star Destroyer. You got that awesome Darth Vader scene where he just hams up. I think it also would have been better if, like, everyone from the Rogue One crew, like, got off of Scarif, only to be the ones who get carved up by Vader.
Who get slaughtered in the...
Like, forget the whole transmitting the plan nonsense. Have them actually, like, pull it out and have to, like, get back up to the sky to hand deliver it. And then because of that, Darth Vader just memes all of them up. I think that scene would have been even better if it said just a bunch of nameless soldiers. It was a couple nameless soldiers, but also the cast of the movie. I also think it would have been a little cathartic for those of us who did not care for these characters.
Yeah.
Like,
and this is what...
Yeah, the first half of this movie would get like a 4 out of 10. Just judging the first half on its own, it would get a 4 out of 10. The Dark Forces video game did this plotline way better. That came out in the 90s. Like I said, like, Cassian Andor is less interesting version of Kyle Katarn, which is the hero from Dark Forces and Jedi Knight games. So the first half would get like a 4 out of 10. Worse than the Attack of the Clones. The second half on its own would get like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Up there with the best Star Wars has ever done. So together, as a whole, the movie's like a 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how averages work. 4 plus 8 divided by 2, 6.
There we go.
Yeah,
and like
that is Vader's best moment. That is some of the best action Star Wars has ever done. Is the Battle of Scarif. Like, you get everything. You get like the ground fight. You get the air fights. a little nonsensical in some places. Like, why are they using
Little all over the place.
well, why are they using AT-ATs in this like kind of beach setting where it's mostly Imperial facilities there?
Yeah.
But at least a cool moment.
Yeah.
The scene,
And
the scene that was in the trailer where like, what's his face shoots a rocket at the AT-AT and just like, what?
Yeah, it's just like, excuse you.
Would it be better if the AT-AT like actually got a shot off after that instead of getting hit by the X-wings and blown up?
Yeah. And one thing I don't know. I guess a couple of things about this like final scene. First of all, I have mixed feelings about the stock footage because like on the one hand, I feel like it's a nice way to tie the movies together, although again, like we talked about, like the fact that it can't get away is kind of weird, but also
it can't get away from A New Hope. Like when they get the Death Star planes, it's literally just the exact same images and stuff from A New Hope.
Yeah, but then it's also one of those things where you find yourself maybe wondering, like, where were these guys in Rogue One and stuff like that. But also, it does kind of, I don't know. I also kind of like this scene because it kind of explains why the Rebel fleet in Yavin 4 is only 30 ships and stuff like that, because they were all here just trying to get these plans.
I always figured it was more that the Death Star was impenetrable to the larger assault, that they needed the smaller fighters to actually like get in there and get in the trench.
Too. Yeah. But I also liked that I don't know. So I have mixed feelings about those. Like I thought it was a neat idea. I thought it was cool that they used what resources they have, but also it kind of pulls you out of it. It's kind of suspension of disbelief if you're 8 and you know anything about stock footage and how that works. Or like you're smart enough to realize, wait a minute, those guys would be way too old by the time this was made. So that was
I think they CGI'd them. I think they CGI'd Red Squadron. I'm pretty sure that's how they did that. With the Reds 1 through 4.
I thought it was all stock footage, but I'm
not sure.
I don't know.
That would be something I would know if I actually owned this movie on DVD and actually like had seen any behind the scenes features, which I do want to a little bit, because I do want to eventually, because I got serious questions about the production of this movie. I want to know where things went wrong and why things went right at the end.
Yeah. But I did also like that I kind of laughed a little bit with the...
Yeah, which is why it kind of worked out that I was unavailable last week. That because I don't think Rogue One could be its own podcast. It's just it's too new. I'm the cinephile, and I just don't know enough about the production of this movie to pad things out. So it would be like a 40-minute podcast, even if we had like 5 different people on here talking about it. We'd be done in less than an hour.
Yeah, but I also found myself laughing at the maybe I'm morbid for this, but at the whole Red 5 thing that they had going on, where it's all like,
I like that.
Red 5, where are you going?
I like that.
They're like, Red 5, where are you going? I was like, oh, he's dead.
Where are you going? I must leave a seat vacant for Luke later.
Yeah, I laughed at that when I was all...
I don't. I read the script.
Yeah, none of us do. Yeah, like, it was kind of funny. I was watching it with my brother-in-law, and I laughed at that. He was like, what was so funny about it? I was all like, Red 5 is Luke's call sign. That guy's screwed. There he goes. I was like, Red 5's Luke's call sign. That guy's screwed. Yep, there it is. That guy's screwed. But yeah, this entire battle of Scarif, and like one thing that it does really well, like one of the biggest problems with this movie is that it tries too hard to be episode 4, or is that it pulls too much from episode 4. It can't get away from it. But one way in which I think that's kind of a good thing is that it does actually manage to build some decent suspense throughout all of this. It makes you...
Would have been a lot better if we cared about the characters, because we know that
we know
that the mission itself succeeds. What we should be caring about is whether or not Rogue One makes it out alive. They don't, but that sounds like a risky move on paper. I'm pretty sure I already said this. That sounds like a risky move on paper. But the way they treated these characters, the way they wrote these characters, we don't care. Yeah. We don't care that they're dying. The only one who gets a legit reaction is K2. And my first time watching this, I also had a reaction for the pilot, but I'm pretty sure at that point I really had to pee and ended up holding it in for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
But
that was a bad day for me. Like it made me like I cried at the end of this movie, but I'm pretty sure it was because I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And was holding it in for like that last half hour.
Yeah. But like there's a decent amount of suspense that still brought that. Yeah, it would have been a lot better if we had cared about these characters and stuff like that. But it does, like, even those last 2 minutes did have a great moment of just suspense of like, oh my gosh, are these guys actually gonna get out of here? So, or are they actually gonna get it out? Is this an alternate universe where they all died? Like, that would have been that would have been a real risk. Actually, go full on AU and just be like, nope, everyone dies. But nope, the Death Star gets through or survives. But yeah, but yeah, those final action scenes and the war aspect of it was really good. So yeah, and the dog fights
I
and
think
stuff
they
like that.
did try. I think.
I
think they succeeded in making this feel like a war movie. I think.
Yeah.
In the original cut or whatever, the director or writers, they wanted to add a lot more moral gray areas and stuff like that. And then in the reshoots, rewrites, whatever, they ended up being like, no, let's keep the Rebel Alliance as the heroes of the story. And it's a bummer.
Yeah, and the way they do Cassian's character is really weird because it's like we kind of talked about this earlier, but like in the first scene, he kills his friends, showing that he's this ruthless guy who's willing to do anything. Then he hesitates to kill Galen Erso, someone he doesn't even know. Then he defends his actions, says, I've done all things because but at least I actually try to do something about this. Like after that, and then he just all of a sudden decides that he's now on Jin's side again. It's like he's all over the place, and it's kind of weird with him. So yeah.
And like in the first, they try portraying Jen as this like kind of spunky, rebellious punk girl, but then by the end of by the time Saw Gerrera dies, she's just total paragon. Wide-eyed, and all of her line deliveries are like this. Rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like she's able to rally up, give these big inspiring speeches. It's all like, since when are you a public speaker?
Since when do you care?
Yeah, that too. When
did she start caring about the Alliance? Because I'm gonna have to watch this movie again because I don't know. I don't know when she's like. It's just it flips about.
Yeah, it's like Saw and her dad.
Around the time that, I guess by the halfway point, like right after her dad died, she all of a sudden cares about the rebellion's plot.
Yeah, it's like I can understand wanting to destroy the Death Star, but why do you care about the rebellion? So yeah,
the reception of these movies. Gonna get into like our last section or two.
Yeah.
As a whole, Force Awakens, highest grossing movie of all time. Rogue One, I don't think not so much. Rogue One, I don't know. Leave in the comments below what you guys think about Rogue One because I'm pretty negative on this movie, for the most part. Yeah. And all the people I talk to kind of share my criticisms, but this movie is still in the 80% range on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's probably
those
just
last 30 minutes are very effective. Yeah, those last 40 minutes.
Granted, I would rather have a good last 30 minutes than a good first 30 minutes. Gladiator suffers from a lot of the same problems, but like in reverse. For the first third is like bliss, and then the rest of it's just kind of a mess.
Yeah,
that movie actually got Best Picture though. That was not exactly a banner year for Hollywood. I think the opinion on these movies has waned since they have come out, especially Force Awakens.
Yeah,
Like, it's kind of popular to hate on Force Awakens right now, and it's like, no, it's a
which is a
good,
shame because
effective, solid
it's
movie.
pretty good.
Or Rogue One,
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's
Force Awakens is better than Rogue One by a long shot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand how people can say different. Like the fact that I've had to keep my phone open to look at the cast list to remember these characters and actors' names tells you everything you need to know about the characters in this movie. They do not leave an impact. The only impact they leave is the smear of the little grease spot they leave on Scarif when they all get vaporized.
Yeah. Which was a cool shot, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that Jen and Cassian don't kiss. I like that they just kind of hug and like, this is it
my
for
brother-in-law. Yeah, that was another thing that like my brother-in-law was all disappointed. There's no reason for them to like. They've barely known. They've only just gotten to know each other, and they've been at one another's throats 90% of the time. Okay, 75% of the time, but yeah. So
again, like both of their characters kind of flip a switch, but for the halfway point. Yeah, the second half of this movie is very different than the first half. And that it's actually good in the second half.
Yeah.
So last section I kind of want to do is let's do just about 5 minutes of theories and expectations for The Last Jedi, which all the critics have already seen.
Yeah.
People in Europe are watching it like right now, as we record this. And we're not going to be able to see it for a few days. So, hopefully
we're those because we're American,
and we have lives. Believe it or not.
Yep.
we have jobs and stuff and school, and I just finished finals, and I'm wearing my UMSL hat to celebrate because screw this semester.
Yep.
Screw every semester, really. Work it just school is too much work. Don't do it. Actually, no. Just stay in school until you get a decent paying job.
Do what you have to get a decent paying job. Not that doesn't always mean school, but yeah. Anyway,
only go to college if you want to get into like business, psychology, education, or some kind of job that requires you to fill out paperwork.
Engineering, maybe. Yeah.
Well, engineering, you do trade schools, which there's a really good one in Missouri here, in Rolla. Rolla, Missouri has a really good engineering school. That's where I have a friend that goes there.
Yeah.
Had a couple friends go there actually. Anyway, that's our double feature, the Disney era of the Star Wars movies. Predictions for Last Jedi. Forgot that's what we're going into.
So
yeah, you go first.
Okay. I've only seen like the first theater. That's the main thing that I've seen. That's mainly what I'm pulling from as to what I could see happening. And so I feel like there was probably a few bait and switches there. I don't think Kylo Ren is actually going to kill Leia. Like, we get that shot of him going in on a ship and we're assuming that it's the ship that Leia's on, and he's preparing to shoot. I think he's going to hesitate too long. Because I do think that Leia's going to die at the end of this. I think Ben's going to hesitate too long, and someone else is going to take the shot for him and kill her. And he's going to have that moment of just like, oh. I'm looking forward to the fight between Finn and Phasma. I'm guessing it's probably going to end with her death. Or maybe. But yeah. And as for where I see Rey's story going, I don't... I think she's going to have a bit of a wrestle with the dark side, and possibly even more of one than Luke had in like episode 5 and episode 6. But I think ultimately she's going to remain, and possibly going to make it like part of her mission to, well, also title of it is is the last Jedi. I think that's going to be like an intentional thing. I think Luke is going to be the last Jedi, and that Rey is going to essentially decide that, you know, the Sith and the Jedi, they ultimately self-destruct, and this constant ebb and flow of the Force has unbalanced, is like why the Force needs balancing, and for it to be truly balanced, like, I don't know, we can't keep subscribing to these two extremes, and like, and so she's going to essentially become what is like a gray Jedi. They'll probably have another word for it, but she'll become someone who represents the Force and possibly like police it. I'd wager she'll probably say, you know, Snoke and the New Order, they do need to go. They are too dangerous, but the Jedi are tend to create their own problems, and so I am not going to be a Jedi. And possibly also try and convert Kylo Ren to her way of thinking, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope there's a long exchange. I hope it carries over into Episode 9 with this, like, almost light side, dark side tug of war between Rey and Kylo Ren. Like, I would love for that to end up being kind of the central focus conflict of this trilogy.
Yeah.
So I know from reviews and stuff that Poe kind of gets, not, well, Poe too, but Ben kind of gets his own little subplot in the movie, so he gets a lot of development. I'm curious to see where that goes. Doing actual predictions is kind of daunting because this movie has, Force Awakens had so many questions that need to be answered, and a lot of those questions didn't have answers as they were making that movie because that's how J.J. Abrams rolls, and so I'm really hoping that they get that those answers are satisfactory, and a little scared to actually even do predictions because of that. Like, I'm not even gonna touch on Snoke's identity or where he fits in. I do think that I think Luke is the last Jedi, and I think it's because he realizes that the Jedi, as they are, or as they were, failed. It's not a good idea. I was having this discussion with my dad when we watched Revenge of the Sith. Last time I watched Revenge of the Sith, I watched it with him. My dad, he is also a huge Star Wars fan. He's kind of mad at me right now because I did not buy him a ticket to go with us. We had this discussion about, like, what the Jedi did during the Old Republic era and what they were doing by the time the prequel era rolled around, and how that kind of led, like, more than anything, to Anakin's fall. Like, it was an idea that was in Revenge of the Sith, but not properly explored, as we discussed the other week.
At great length.
Where, from Anakin's point of view, the Jedi were evil, and, I mean, look at it this way, like, Yoda thought that Anakin was too old at 9. Because he wanted, because the Jedi were basically kidnapping babies and raising them to be Jedi. Kind of almost against their wills, and I think
they had no choice.
I think they're going to do something with that in The Last Jedi with Kylo Ren. I think Kylo Ren was born into pretty much the same situation. He was born strong in the Force, was basically forced into the Jedi lifestyle, which was a lifestyle he was not okay with. Yeah. And that's why he ultimately killed all his fellow princesses, probably nearly killed Luke, and joined the dark side. Like, that's what led him to the dark side. I hope they do something similar with that, and I hope Luke learned his lesson, and that's why he's like, it's time for the Jedi to end. And so Rey and Kylo Ren are going to kind of form a different kind of dichotomy. Maybe still like a light side, dark side dichotomy, but the legalism of the Jedi is what's ending. Jedi as law, as this, all these rules and regulations
as
and
an organization,
is over. Like, I think that's what Luke was going for, and that's kind of what a lot of the again, it's like picking and choosing what from the expanded universe works. It's kind of what Luke was doing in the expanded universe, the Jedi in the New Republic era was way different than they were in the prequel era and the Old Republic era. And a lot of it was because Luke was like, yeah, there's a lot of this stuff that Yoda and Obi-Wan and Mace Windu and all of them were doing that it just doesn't work. It makes things worse.
I don't want to make my relationship with Mara Jade a taboo.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so that's something I could see is that realization of the harm of two extremes, and this is I don't know. I don't want to get too political here, but like this is I don't know. I feel like this is something I find that I found over the past few years, just with the way politics have been going, is that ultimately one of the biggest problems with I don't know. Like I don't know. Just over the last 2 years with politics and stuff like that, I really do not like the overly polarizing mindsets that organizations have and stuff like that. That's not how real people. I don't think that's how real people think. And so, yeah, I would very much welcome the idea of them saying, you know what, Jedi, Sith, they're both too polarizing, and they both need to go. It's not a healthy way for the galaxy to exist and stuff like that, because the galaxy is caught in the middle of these two polarizing factions, and the galaxy is torn apart. So yeah. So
I also hope that the New Republic getting roasted in The Force Awakens actually amounts to something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a lot of people died.
I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be Coruscant was one of the planets that got annihilated. Yeah, so I think that about wraps it up. That's all I am willing to give predictions on, really.
Yeah, same here. I am looking forward to checking it out. I hope it's not a rehash of
Empire Strikes Back. I hope it finds a way to stand on its own feet in a way that The Force Awakens did not, while also weaponizing that nostalgia. Like, I was thinking about this when I was going to get soda, and I forgot this kind of joke where, like, when we were talking about The Force Awakens, you could almost, like, just reuse footage from our podcast about A New Hope and just replace every time we say groundbreaking or important with nostalgia baiting.
Yeah.
Because it really is. I might try to pull in something like that off with like Star Wars reviews, like weekly Star Wars reviews where I review each movie in like 5 minutes, and then I just use the same exact audio from A New Hope on The Force Awakens and just change all the proper nouns and change every time I say groundbreaking to nostalgia baiting. So yeah, I'm gonna plug my channel and the Facebook page, Ruby and Beyond. Link is in the description for the Facebook page. If you like this, like, comment, and subscribe. Come back next week when we have more people and we are talking about The Last Jedi.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And yeah, keep your eyes open for more videos. Tides of Glory, my YouTube page, which is just getting started. So yeah, keep your eyes open.
Yeah, he's got a really good video about Ego from Ratatouille.
Yep.
I had to clarify that because if I just said his first name or whatever, people would think we were talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Ego, the living planet. Anyway.
Nope.
Yep. Signing off. Have a good night.
Thank you. See you.